Hello, Omni Dogs and Omni Kittens. It's Omni Dog here with an overview and review of Superman Space Age by Mark Russell and Mike and Laura Allred. And of course, let me remind you, visit Organic Priced Books, where you can use my code OmniDog for $2 off your order. Big savings with 5% off shipping 3 or more books together with code OmniDog. Ship it together. So this book has been out for a while, and there may be other YouTube reviews on it. I honestly don't know because I don't watch other channels, so I don't get influenced by them. But I'm going to tell you why, in my opinion, this is not only my favorite Superman book of all time, but one of my favorite comic books of all time. This is a remarkable effort by Mark Russell and his artist and colorist to teach tremendous lessons and keep us entertained with a light sense of humor, but a serious purpose throughout. So let's take a look at the dust jacket. And then we'll see it. There's the spine. And then we will take it out of the dust jacket. And this is a pretty boss book right there. Same spine. Well, that doesn't look good. We'll get to that. So this is one of the books, few books, actually maybe the only book I know that started out with a spoiler how the book ends. And it circles back to that. But I also don't want to show it to you because I want you to get there. I want you to experience on your own the very beginning and then how we circle back to get where that started. So I have it bookmarked, so we skip the first few pages and we find Clark down on the farm, knowing that he has superpowers, wanting to do more, and Pa Kent is always telling him, Clark's making his argument, I could save the world, Dad. And he says, save it quick or save it right. And so there's Pa Kent's, has the farmer's attitude, which is a good lesson for Clark. I think everybody realizes that Clark is the way that Clark is because of his upbreaking by Ma and Pa Kent. And part of his father's philosophy is rooted in World War II, which will come up again informing other people's opinions, as the beginning of the book is set in 1963, and Jonathan Kent's experience in World War II was fairly devastating. He was sent to clear out Japanese caves, caves that were held by Japanese soldiers still. It was very tricky, and he accidentally shoots a child. But here it's where they say, this is where I need to make the point that the story is told in word balloons, but the message and the messages, because it has many messages, are really the important part and are told in the narrative boxes. These can't be skipped because this is where the real story is. So he says, they say you've seen the face of everyone that you've killed when you close your eyes, go to sleep, but the truth is worse. After a while, you don't see them at all. The dead disappear because we need them to. Because that's the price of our survival. The price we pay to make room for the living. So his philosophy is shaped by his experiences growing up and serving in the World War II, and here's the miracle of Clark showing up. And Jonathan just wants a quiet farmer life after everything he's seen in World War II. Now, this is also 1963, it starts out with the assassination of Kennedy. Clark's itching to make a difference in the world. All he really knows about his powers is that he's very strong and can fly a little bit. We have Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor meeting at the Pentagon. This is, of course, the space age, the nuclear age, where it felt like apparently at the time where we were on the knife's edge of always being at nuclear war with the Soviets. President Kennedy's been assassinated. Russian subs have appeared bouncing up in the Arctic Circle. And the conjecture is, are they going to strike at a period which seems to be a possible moment of weakness for the U.S.? Here we have Hal Jordan, who's scrambling over the Arctic Ocean. And not only is that happening, but at the Daily Planet, they need a reporter on the ground in Dallas. And it turns out to be Lois Lane, who's the Kooks and Cranks writer, where she's interviewing people with psychic dogs. But Lois Lane does such a great job reporting. She ends up winning a Pulitzer for it, or becomes the main writer at the Daily Planet. But Clark sees this on television and realizes that we're possibly on the verge of nuclear war with Russia over this, and decides to go off on his own. He's not doing too great of a job because he starts to enter Soviet airspace. And the Soviets see this as an act of aggression, and they're getting ready to load their weapons, ICBMs. Hal Jordan shoots down this unidentified flying object, which has both sides stand down after this because the object isn't rushing into Russian airspace at that point. And Lex is drawn as possibly the most amoral I have ever seen him. But he's also a ruthless businessman, and in this case, the amorality fits. So this is where we begin what I consider the real heart of the book, and that is that while the story takes place in the word balloons, the messages that Mark Russell is putting forth take place in the narrative boxes. And this is the page before it and this page actually quantify what hope is. And this book, of course, is all about hope and how people hang on to it, what it is exactly, how Superman is the symbol of hope. Here, since he got shot down over the North Pole, that is where the other ship from Krypton crashed. It recognizes his signature, and he gets a computer-generated vision of Jor-El, who tells him about all the powers that he possibly has, which is news to Clark. And the indestructible outfit with the symbol of the House of El. And Jor-El's hope is that not only can he be the pride of Krypton, but the pride of Earth too. Earth also. So Clark goes back after his initial meeting, and he works out a compromise that with his parents that he is a little bit too big for Smallville, but that he does need to spread his wings a bit. And I don't want to show you that too quickly. Nope. Okay. Because Clark does meet in a bar somebody that has a dire prediction, but he kind of writes him off as a kook, but it's also sticking in the back of his mind. And Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor actually do get to make their presentations, and Hal Jordan is brought in to report on what he saw over the Arctic Circle that day. And Lois Lane is very fleshed out as a very strong reporter with an amiable, what word am I looking for? Amiable personality, but in a male-dominated industry, she knows she has to be extra tough and extra good at her writing. And I'm sure I butchered the grammar there, and there we learn Lois's dad's side, what informs her worldview. Lois's dad's World War II experiences, which definitely inform it. inform her worldview. And as I said, do not skip any of these narrative boxes, because what we get from Mark Russell in this book is not just a tale of Superman growing up, trying to help Earth, what Earthlings' reaction is to him. It's what it is to hope, what it is to love, the meaning of being a hero, and it may not be what you think the meaning of being a hero. His message on that is very relatable. That's one thing about this book, is that these are all messages. They're not jammed at you because it is a comic book after all, but they're messages of what it's like to be alive, and how to deal with things, with the lessons of war, with the nuclear war hovering over your head, what it means to have peace, freedom, how sometimes maybe you won't have justice, but there can be consequences, and the period of change that the United States is going through. Lois Lane gets locked up with a bunch of freedom riders, notably John Lewis, and she turns that into an amazing story. So it does take us from the period of 1963 to 1985 and all the changes that America went through during that time. And I want to make sure that I don't show too much. Here's where Hal Jordan finds Abin Sur and gets the ring. So the Justice League, as you will see, does play a part in this. And we don't get a lot of Hal, but we get a lot of what the Guardians mean to the universe and what they end up meaning to Earth. And so here, Wonder Woman makes herself known. Batman, Bruce Wayne is tested he ends up losing to LexCorp. Sorry, spoiler. He loses up losing to LexCorp on their Pentagon deal, but he's battle tested all his interesting battle equipment and outfits himself as the Batman. And so here's our beginning of the Justice League. And there's a philosophy at play here with, let's see if we can go right to here. I think this, yeah, no, I don't want to show that page. I can show this. This is Lois's first meeting with Superman. Clark continuing to get lessons from Jor-El. There's a philosophy at play here, and the thoughts are so deep, they make other books seem shallow. I was riveted, and I thought it was remarkable, the observations that Mark Russell makes about the human condition, as he is so famous for. But it's over a broader spectrum. It covers a range of emotions, a range of human actions, what it means for Superman to want to try to save everybody, what it means for Batman to try to save just one person. They have different philosophies, yet somehow they both want to do the right thing, just in different ways. It covers, what would you do to save one or many or try to save everyone? And there's an interesting part here when Bruce has given up leading Wayne Enterprises because he'd rather focus on being Batman. But then it turns out the secret bombings in Cambodia were Wayne Enterprise bombs, and he, of course, was not aware of that. So then we get Maxwell Lord taking over for Bruce Wayne at Wayne Enterprises. Let's see, I don't want to... and here's another tale of Pa Kent and what the meaning of hope is in World War II, as Superman relates it to Lois Lane. Lois doesn't know he's Clark yet, but he's telling... His story is basically what hope is, and what hope means to him, and how we need to hang on to it. Here is the backlash in the all-male newsroom because of Lois Lane's reporting on Watergate. All the check out the leisure suit on this guy. That's good. That's good artwork. I remember leisure suits. Because of her reporting in Watergate, all the Planet reporters have been banned from the White House, and Clark ends up standing up for Lois Lane, which is a big moment in the book. And I don't want to skip too much, but I also don't want to give it away. Nope, don't want to show you that because that'll give something away. Here we see another meeting with the prophet in a bar that Clark always gets a cold glass of milk because he is Clark. We're introduced into a nope, I don't want to show you that. We're introduced to a Superman of another world, but that involves other characters that I don't want to expose you to yet. You need to discover them on your own. And one of the things that Jor-El tells Clark that he has, besides X-ray vision, heat vision, power of flight, is a super intellect. And Clark Superman starts to wonder, how can he do the most good for the world? Whereas Batman's focused on trying to save a city and just what difference he can make individually, Superman's thinking pretty large here. And he's under a bit of... Superman's in a race against the clock, he feels. So he wants to create something that's amazing, and I'll let you discover it. But let's take a look at the brilliant colors that we get from Laura Allred. The art, of course, I am a big fan of Mike Allred, and a big part of Mike Allred's art is his wife's wonderful coloring. And she, since this is a space age, nuclear age, 60s, 70s, 80s kind of book, the colors really pop because that was the age of vibrant colors. And we continue to get, I don't want to show you that. Nope, don't want to show you that. Oh, now that'll just give it away. But there's a little bit more Lex Luthor. And I can't really show you much. I feel like I've shown you a lot of the book, but I can't really show you much more. It's not a brilliant comic because of the story itself, but it's a brilliant book because of its many messages. As I said, what happens between birth and death, and the inevitability of death, which gives life its meaning. And the way he quantifies hope, the way he quantifies what being a hero means, he tells us these things in ways that are very understandable, very relatable, and you don't have to be a superhero to understand what his definition of a hero is in this book. It's really remarkable. This book resonated with me like no other book. Other people may think differently, and of course that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But this is easily one of the best comic books I've ever read, simply the best Superman book I've ever read. And the reason is because of Mark Russell and his incredible way of conveying his message about a variety of topics in such a sensible, easy to understand philosophy that you are swept up in it, and it makes complete and perfect sense to you why the people act the way they do in this book. And it becomes much more than a superhero book. This is a book about what you and I are like here on Earth, and what our daily struggles are like with life, death, hope, love, what happens during war. These are all things that a lot of us experience. Getting up in the morning can be a struggle for some. He acknowledges that in this book. I give this 10 out of 10, my highest recommendation. I love this book, and it has something for everyone. It is not just a comic book, but it is a great work of fiction. And Mark Russell has outdone himself here. And I feel you'd be doing yourself a disservice if, because it's a Superman book, you're not interested in reading it because of Superman. This thing goes much deeper than that and has an ending that is really great, really wonderful, really put a smile on my face and got me choked up a little bit. Of course, I cry at anything, so that's not a surprise. But I highly, highly recommend this book, and I really think you owe it to yourself to give this a read. And of course, it's going to come out in absolute form and deluxe form, and I perhaps will upgrade, but I am going to treasure this book, and the more I read it, the more I get out of it, and I bet you will too. So peace and love from OmniDog's Vault. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. I'm always happy to reply to comments. Peace and love, peace and love.